Hi everybody, it's Chris and welcome to another video by the Infinity System. Today's video we've been thinking about since our last video on Team Pinata and Dissociative, and it was something that cropped up when we learned about the artwork, and it immediately set a thought to niggling at the back of our mind. Now, as a disclaimer, we are not addressing the artwork itself. We're not saying that Team Pinata ever said that their art was therapeutic in nature anyway, so let's just get that out of the way. To the best of our knowledge, it was not. If anybody knows if they claimed that, please feel free to comment below. But it set a question up in our mind, which was basically, when does art and trauma collide? And specifically, what about therapeutic art? Art that is produced during something like art therapy. So what is art therapy or therapeutic art? Art therapy involves the use of various techniques, such as drawing, painting, coloring, or sculpting to help patients express themselves and to examine the psychological and emotional undertones in their art. It's commonly used to relieve stress, manage addictions, improve self-esteem, and as a tool to cope with the symptoms of anxiety and depression. The need for self-art therapy as a tool. One, it really allows the patient to take control of their experience. Now, what are we talking about when I say their experience? We're talking about specifically for the course of this video for trauma work. A large part of how DID is formed is through abuse, including child sexual abuse or sexual abuse of minors. So those of us with DID who were abused sexually often have imagery in their head that they can't get out and they can't rid themselves of, or imagery that crops up in a completely unexpected manner. The nature of DID is that it walls that trauma off behind an amnesiac barrier until you're ready to deal with it. And then the things that will come out of your mind can quite surprise you. In our own art therapy, for example, in the course of our therapy, there have been some things where when the alter is done drawing it and we look at it, we're like, oh my god, this is dark and disturbing. For example, this picture, which seems innocent enough on the surface, but the longer that you look at it, you can see there are definite serious undertones there. We're willing to share this because it's vague, but it illustrates the point. But this is directly from our own trauma experience. So in this case, there is definitely a need for art therapy. It allows us to take control of the experience. It allows sufferers to relive the experience in a safe way, in a controlled fashion. It also provides an outlet for changing that experience. And more importantly, it provides a way for the subconscious mind to express itself, which in turn allows your therapist insight into your system. It integrates with your ongoing psychotherapy. It's often a technique used by therapists to get at issues that might be under the surface. It helps to identify those aspects and focus your therapy on those subjects that you might be unaware of. And it also serves to provide an ongoing record of your progress or whatever regress that you might actually be having, which leads to privacy concerns. Privacy and the therapeutic relationship is critical. The relationship is built on trust between the therapist and the patient. The patient has to feel that they can trust the therapist, or they're not going to tell them anything, really. The really nitty-gritty, nasty stuff, you have to have somebody that you can trust, somebody enough that you can open up to. Because otherwise you don't have anyone. You're out on a limb. So, how do therapists, particularly art therapists, maintain their confidentiality, and what does that mean? So, We did some researching, and according to the Ethical Principles for Art Therapists, the American Art Therapy Association, published in December of 2013, you can find a link to the document below, therapy art is considered confidential within the context of the professional relationship, both during and after treatment. However, therapists are required to report like any other professional when, for example, a client is in immediate danger of their health or their life, or pose a danger to the health or life of someone else, when it is mandated by civil or criminal law. Otherwise, it's confidential. Most therapeutic art, therapists will store for the standard amount of time for documents. This is generally 7 years before it's destroyed. However, basically it boils down to, okay, this is my art. It was produced under a therapeutic guise. We've worked through it now. Who owns it? You're ending your relationship with your therapist, and you have this confidential, very sensitive stuff, some of it which could be explicit in nature. What do you do with it? Do you have a right to it? The answer is yes. Ultimately, you own the art that you produce. Again, with the caveats of you're not depicting something like a murder scene or something like an active investigation or something that you've done, something of a criminal nature. So you do still retain rights to it. So you have therapeutic art that you've produced under the guise of therapy. These are your own experiences. These are your own traumas that you've set down to work through. What do you do with it once your therapy is concluded or you're moving on to a different treatment? Do you keep it for a psychiatric archive in the hopes that you can glean some data or chart your progress from it later? Or do you destroy it once it's been discussed with your therapist? A lot of victims of abuse will find it very cathartic to take a representation of their abuse or their abuser and immolate it, set it on fire. We're not advocating the irresponsible use of fire in any way, shape, or form, but we would be lying if we said that we hadn't had a couple barbecue parties ourselves. So now, when does art, therapeutic art, stop being therapeutic and become something else? We have thought a lot about this since learning about everything that's been going on behind the scenes, and basically it boils down to this. It's the purpose and the intent behind the creation of the art. Is it for therapeutic uses? Is it for private records? Or is it for sale or distribution for profit, or for dissemination into the public at large, say as part, or dissemination to the public at large? So we feel that it is the purpose and intent behind the creation of the art, and whether or not it's for sale, for distribution, or for profit. So that's your dividing line. So the question is, okay, well, what if, like, say, for example, I have a fetish that turns me on and I want to make artwork of that, where, that's protected under my First Amendment rights, free speech, this, that, and the other thing. Where do you draw the line? How far is too far? And this is the answer, and we did some research on this. Outside of the context of the therapeutic environment, artwork that is produced that depict children or underage individuals that are depicted in a sexual or suggestive manner, artwork that depicts cruelty to adults, children, or animals, it's illegal, flat out. Courts have also ruled that any digital or 3D created CGI models are treated the same as an actual child. It's not the same everywhere, but that is the general consensus. But that, I think, is ultimately the issue here. Does artwork that is produced in a therapeutic environment equate to child pornography, or does intent matter? obviously for sale or for profit, distribution for titillation, that would definitely cross a moral and a legal threshold, no ifs, ands, or buts. But it's a gray, murky area, and we felt that it was something that needed addressing, because that's one of the reasons that we started this channel, was to take some of the ickier aspects of being a system with DID and just dealing with this in general, and kind of hoping that maybe we can air them out and together come to some consensus and maybe help each other. So that's today's episode. Hit us up in the comments section below. We would really like to know what you guys think about today's episode, about the issues surrounding it. What do you think about art therapy and its use as trauma therapy? And what do you think about graphic depictions produced through art therapy? Hit us up with your thoughts below. We're really curious to see what you guys have to say about that. Again, thank you for watching The Infinity System, and always remember, you're loved, you're strong, and you're not alone. I'm Chris. Thanks for watching.